We have spent much of today talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his assassination 50 years ago today. His death tore the nation apart. Riots erupted here and in many cities across the country. Joining us now is Soul 101.5 and 1230 AM radio host Lincoln Ware to talk about the impact of that day. What have you been hearing from your listeners today, Lincoln?
Well, a lot of people are reflecting on what they were doing that day and, how shocking it was to hear how their parents reacted. One guy called and said he thought somebody in his family had died the way his mother was crying. He didn't know what was wrong. And so, a lot of people have different experiences, and it's just, people can remember it just like it was yesterday. I can't believe 50 years has gone by so fast.
What is your recollection from that day? Where were you?
Well, I was 17 years old in high school. My birthday would have been my birthday is 1 week from today, and I was looking forward to my 18th birthday, And this happened. I was riding on a bus. It wasn't Metro then. It was Cincinnati Transit, one of those orange and yellow buses. And a lady got on the bus and she was crying and she said, "Martin Luther King has just been killed," and everybody was shocked on the bus. And so I couldn't wait to get home to watch the news. And of course, everybody watched Al Shattucati on Channel 9. He would open up his newscast. It's 11 o'clock, time for the Al Shattucati News, the color, films, pictures, and sounds of the day's events from the station where news is first. He broke in talking about Martin Luther King had been assassinated, and then he talked about the disturbance that was breaking out. And that was really a shocker.
What do you remember from that, from the riots?
Well, I remember Burnett Avenue, getting the bulk of it. Avondale was the main community that it was happening. I remember seeing the National Guard, and that was kind of frightening to see military people taking over your city, pretty much riding around on Jeeps with machine guns and it was with their helmets on and their combat gear, and it was kind of frightening to see that, like what's going on here,
We talk about 50 years ago, but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s message still lives. And so I have to ask this question. When you talk about his "I Have a Dream" speech, and he said, we need to judge people not by the color of their skin, but their content of their character.
Yes.
Do we still have a ways to go with that?
I think we do. You look at the Urban League report that was put out a couple of years ago saying there's two Cincinnatis, one black, one white. I don't think that's the way Martin Luther King wanted it. I mean, he wanted it to be joined together, but I think Cincinnati might have a ways to go as far as a lot of the things that Martin Luther King was preaching. He would still be preaching those same things in Cincinnati today.
So in moving forward, in taking the baton and running with it, what has to happen?
Well, I think people need to sit down and talk. People who are going through discrimination needs to sit down and talk with the people who are doing the discriminating. A lot of people discriminate and they don't really realize that they're doing it, but they do. So I think both sides need to come together. One side needs to see the other side's view, and I think if people sit down and talk, I think they can work a lot of things out.
Lincoln Ware, thanks for helping us put a spotlight on this very important day in history, both at the Cincinnati level and at the national level. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet.